sweat.
He used to break them. Yeah. He used to knock them down.
Heavy puncher.
The heaviest?
Yeah.
His strength was his everything.
Yeah.
And like this, and so, he pulling the big old truck on his shoulders and all this and stuff like that.
Reached out and called him several times just to talk. Good guy. George is a great man.
Boxers have expressed their profound admiration for the late George Foreman, recognizing his amazing legacy and fearsome force. Legends like Mike Tyson have acknowledged his unrivaled power. Even in his later years, Foreman knocked out elite fighters, solidifying his reputation as one of boxing's most feared and powerful champions. Tyson referred to Foreman as the hardest puncher ever, a man whose strength was so incredible that he used to break heavy bags during training. His punches carried devastating force, and opponents feared entering the ring with him.
Floyd Mayweather used to just stand in front of the back, right? Just like that, 40 minutes, throw a couple hooks.
George Foreman too. They hit the back. That's how he works out with his sweat.
He used to break them.
Yeah.
He used to knock them down.
Heavy puncher.
The heaviest?
Yeah.
I thought that was you.
I can't match somebody's powers with that big and that much mass. The only thing that allowed me to be excited because I do it faster than other guys.
More explosive. How did you explode like that? Was that natural?
No, nothing's natural. Nothing about me natural. Only my desire to win was natural. I had a great teacher.
Did he instill that desire in you, your coach?
No, only you can do that. You're born with it and somebody can elicit it out of you.
Muhammad Ali commended George Foreman for his tenacity and self-assurance in the ring. Ali recognized that, even though he lost to Ali in the well-known Rumble in the Jungle, Foreman gave it his all, demonstrating his incredible strength, heart, and warrior spirit.
Just before the fight, I'm looking at him. I said, "Sucker, you are in trouble tonight. You are fighting the greatest fight of all times. You heard I was the greatest, like you just said you heard this and now you see it. I said, you said I was the greatest, but you're gonna see. I'm fast, sucker. I'm gonna burn you up. You're fighting your idol." I talked through the whole fight. I said, "Come on, sucker." I said, "Show me something. They told me you could hit hard. You're just a sissy. Come on, sucker. Show me something." Oh, I grabbed his head sometimes and I said, "Look at you. Round 7, and you're tired. You have 8 more rounds to go." And he's just throwing them. He's breathing. I said, oh, you finished, boy. You are in trouble. I said, "You don't have but 2 chances, slim and none."
George Foreman and Joe Frazier engaged in a fight that would go down in history in 1973. In this bout, Foreman displayed unmatched dominance by knocking down Frazier 6 times in just 2 rounds, resulting in a technical knockout and the WBA and WBC heavyweight titles. Frazier, the current heavyweight champion, was known for his relentless fighting style and had already defeated Muhammad Ali. Few had predicted such a lopsided result. Therefore, this stunning performance shocked the boxing community.
Were you ever scared of anybody in the ring? Now be honest. Ali? I mean,
it's strange. I wasn't afraid of Muhammad. I lost the title to Muhammad, but I remember Joe Frazier. He was the toughest guy I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Smoking Joe Frazier. My mother watched him fight on television, and he hit a guy so hard the guy turned his back. And I kept thinking, I want to be champ of the world, but I sure hope Joe Frazier died. It was time to fight Joe Frazier. And I knew if you hit him, he liked it. And if you miss him, he'd get upset. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do? But I had this habit of staring guys down. I look them in the eye to psych them out. If they dropped their head, I knew I had an advantage. But I was hoping Joe Frazier wouldn't drop his head because my knees were shaking. At that time, I wish I had even started that.
After a 10-year hiatus, George Foreman returned to boxing in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Many questioned whether he could compete at a high level because of his age and length of absence from the sport. But Foreman defied expectations in 1994 by defeating the then unbeaten Michael Moore to regain the heavyweight title. This incredible feat made him the oldest heavyweight champion in boxing history, a record that has never been broken. Foreman's recovery is frequently regarded as one of the most inspirational in sports history, proving that perseverance and tenacity can triumph over the test of time.
Been throughout the years, if any, or would you like to share a little bit about that?
Well, George and I have always spoken to each other cordially. I've reached out and called him several times just to talk. Good guy. George is a great man.
Former heavyweight champion Vander Holyfield talked about the incredible challenge George Foreman posed in the ring, calling Foreman the hardest puncher he had ever encountered. Holyfield also emphasized Foreman's exceptional strength and training regimen, which included using unusual techniques like pulling trucks to increase power and endurance. Holyfield also described the physical toll their fight inflicted on him, including the loss of teeth, highlighting Foreman's tremendous strength and the regard his peers held for him.
To like a world apart going into this fight.
Well, George Foreman always promoted his strength. His strength was his everything.
Yeah.
And like this, and so, he pulling the big old truck on his shoulders and all this and stuff like that. And so, I had people talking about, well, he did this, he did that. I said, look, hey, boxing is not all boxing. I said, no. I said, he got to try to hit me. I said, he's slow as Christmas. I said, he's slow as Christmas. I said, he's not fast. I said, so he throw these big shots. But the difference is that he got good timing. And so that's what I realized, because I pulled back, and by the time I pulled back from the shot ain't got done yet. Bam! I bring my head back because that's how slow he is. His timing, but he got right time. He know that you gonna come back at the right time when because he's supposed to be gonna miss me, and I come back.
Bam!
When I come back, it's coming. Oh,
yeah.
Right? So I realized, okay, then I got to dance around him a little bit and pack him like this, and so the whole big thing about boxing is making the guy come forth while you punching at the same time. That's how you can maximize your power on him. And I was able to do it sometime, but he was a good disciplined fighter. He didn't lose all this energy on me. He was able to push it off with the big arms and maul me. He kind of mauled me in the corner a lot. I couldn't even get out. He was so much stronger.
Teddy Atlas, a famous boxing trainer and analyst, has frequently hailed George Foreman as one of the greatest boxing figures in history. Atlas underlined Foreman's extraordinary strength and distinct personality, both inside and beyond the ring. He also emphasized Foreman's capacity to change his image from a feared boxer to a well-liked public figure, demonstrating his adaptability and timeless appeal. Atlas's appreciation is a testament to Foreman's significant influence on the sport and his enduring legacy as a unique figure in boxing history.
And redemption is a powerful word. It's a scary word. It's a powerful word. I know it firsthand. It's very powerful. Very powerful. And he had redemption on his side. George Foreman was a special man. Michael Moore was a special man. George Foreman got put into retirement by Muhammad Ali, really Jimmy Young, but Ali did it. And Ali broke down the monster that night in Zaire. He exposed the monster. He broke down this Herculean fighter that could knock down, walls. And he broke him down. And he made him live with that. He retired. He had one more fight. He got beat by Jimmy Young. Then he retired for 10 years. And he went into the church. He went into, God's work. And during those 10 years, he suffered privately. I know he did. He suffered privately what happened in Zaire. Because in some ways, maybe similar to Tyson, but I think he was stronger than Tyson in other ways, ultimately. But very similar, and similar backgrounds where they came from.
Boxing journalist Gareth Davies has written extensively about George Foreman's incredible accomplishments and legendary status in the sport. Davies made a strong analogy, saying that Foreman combined the fierceness of Mike Tyson and the explosive power of Deontay Wilder, embodying both fighters' strengths at the same time. This comparison highlights Foreman's distinctive combination of raw power and an aggressive style, which made him a formidable opponent and a notable figure in boxing. History.
When I was covering the Rumble in the Jungle in the 70s, 74, 75, when he fought in Jamaica and he fought in Venezuela and Caracas, when he fought in Zaire, Kinshasa, when he fought Norton, when he fought Frazier, and he just absolutely eviscerated them. You got to remember what this guy achieved as a boxer. First of all, he won the Olympic, like you said, rightly said, in America. He's one of their greatest athletes. He won the Olympic gold for them in Mexico in 1968 as a real neophyte boxer, rather like Anthony Joshua did in London, where he hadn't had much of a career. You think after that he turns pro, he beats Foreman. He beats Frazier, he beats Norton, and then he gets beaten by Ali. He's like Deontay Wilder and Mike Tyson rolled into one at the time. He's just destroying everyone. He's one of the biggest punchers of all time. I have interviewed him. I don't know how many times I interviewed him. Many, many, many times. And always through Bill Kaplan, his PR guy, who was his PR guy from the age of him being 18. And Bill's in his late 80s and still PRing him to this day, this very day. It's a really sad thing because, like you say, what I wrote earlier on was that he filled up a room, big booming laugh, but not trying to command attention.
Joe Rogan, a podcast presenter and analyst, has emphasized George Foreman's lengthy and prosperous boxing career. With an outstanding 68 victories via knockout and just 5 losses, Foreman accumulated a professional record of 76 wins. Rogan emphasized Foreman's power and the terror he instilled in opponents by calling him a beast. Foreman's status as one of the most formidable and prosperous heavyweights in boxing history is reflected in this portrayal.
4th or 5th round. Wow. But he was a beast, and then George Foreman, it's like that's a guy that didn't ever put on a pair of gloves till he was, I think, 19 years old, right?
That's crazy.
It's like 19 years old. Think about that. There's just not that many guys that have, has never put on a pair of gloves till they're 19 years old and then get to that level.
Well, that's the Deontay Wilder story, too,
Is it?
Yeah, Deontay Wilder boxed for a year and a half before he won a bronze medal in the Olympics.
Okay, George Foreman won the gold medal in the 70s. When it was even, I think, harder, to win the gold medal because of the Cubans and the Russians. It's like because they never went pro and stuff like that. You had that
right. Phil Stevenson,
right? So it's like I think it was the 76 Olympics that he won the gold medal, and he was like 24 fights as an amateur. That's all the fights he had, never lost.
That's nuts.
And it's like, and just crazy.
He fought just 20 times as an amateur before traveling to Mexico City for the 1968 Olympic Games. Amazing.
And never lost. And then, so that, like, think about that. This guy's walking through guys like Joe Frazier, and then he fights older Muhammad Ali, and then gets, knocked out in the 8th. It's like, crazy. He believed that he was invincible. Arguably the hardest hitter ever.
Yeah.
It's like, what would have happened to Mike Tyson? We might not have known who Mike Tyson was if he would have been around in those days.
No.
Joe Rogan has also talked about the significance of George Foreman's victory over Joe Frazier, who was regarded as one of the best heavyweights of his era and had previously defeated Muhammad Ali. In addition to defeating Frazier, Foreman's ability to knock him out in such a dominant manner enhanced his reputation in the boxing community and demonstrated his extraordinary strength and talent.
I want you to pull up George Foreman knocks out Joe Frazier. Oh, it was crazy. I thought Frazier was gonna die. He knocked him off his feet. That was a crazy one. That was when Joe Frazier just beat Muhammad Ali, right? And then you see what Foreman does to Frazier. Everybody thought that Foreman was going to crush Ali when they were scared. The power is so extraordinary that if he catches you at all, he thumps you with that jab and then just swings at you. Oh my God. Look at that right hand. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at that uppercut. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's power. And here it is. Boom. For the 5th time it's got. This is crazy, this guy. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, what a warrior Joe Frazier was.
George Foreman's tenacity and timeless appeal were lauded by ESPN experts, who noted that he was unstoppable in both his boxing career and his post-box endeavors. Foreman's versatility and charisma made him a beloved person outside of the sport, reflecting his diverse legacy. His ability to reinvent himself, including his successful ventures beyond the ring like his well-liked grill line, allowed him to eclipse even his boxing fame.
A half a century ago. Let's talk about that guy first. Tell us about the young George Foreman.
Well, if you look at boxing as a continuum, he was somewhere between, he was the scary guy. So he's between Sonny Liston and Mike Tyson. And, you know, Joe Frazier was about as tough a guy who's ever laced up gloves. He put him down 6 times. And I think that really crystallized Foreman's reputation as invincible. Everybody, you know, who's going to put down Joe Frazier 6 times? And it set up the Rumble in the Jungle, arguably as famous a fight as ever there was for Ali.
George Foreman made one of the biggest comebacks in boxing history after a 10-year hiatus. Many people thought he was too old and unfit to compete at the top level. But in 1994, he proved everyone wrong by defeating Michael Moore to reclaim the heavyweight title at the age of 45. This victory not only made him the oldest heavyweight champion in history, but it also won him the hearts of boxing fans all over the world.
Different about Foreman than perhaps anyone else is the idea you cited before of reinventing yourself. It's uniquely American, but it's never been done this way in boxing. It wasn't just coming back as a preacher and a pitchman and selling hamburgers or grills or whatever it was. It was more purposeful than any of us knew as far as boxing. The previous oldest heavyweight champion, I believe, was Jersey Joe Walcott, who won when he was 37. Foreman came back when he was just shy of his 46th birthday, I think 2 months shy. And in doing it, it was his own kind of rope-a-dope that night against Michael Moore. I'll never forget it. He took punches. Moore was a really skilled guy, and he just beat him up for 9 rounds. Moore did with a great right jab.
In contrast to the flamboyant Muhammad Ali or the gritty Joe Frazier, George Foreman was viewed as a merciless and unstoppable force in boxing during the 1970s. He rarely displayed emotion in the ring, and his devastating punching power and icy, aggressive personality made him appear like an invincible machine. Because of his overwhelming might and the manner he destroyed his opponents without showing mercy, many fans saw him as the villain. This image was further supported by his 1973 and 1974 destruction of Frazier and Ken Norton. However, this impression was primarily based on his quiet demeanor, rather than any actual evil behavior following his historic victory at the age of 45 for the heavyweight belt. Before formally retiring in 1997, George Foreman fought for a couple more years.
You know, he didn't just reinvent himself. He was a bad guy who came back as a guy who was universally loved. That's a very difficult thing to do in any piece of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he basically changed everyone's mind about himself, and really a remarkable life. Our boxing commentator, Mark Kriegel, sharing some memories, some insight into George Foreman. Mark, thank you. George Foreman, born in 1949, has passed away here in 2025 at the age of 76.
That concludes today's video. Watch this space until the next one.